Hey, Gary, it's 7 o'clock. All right, where's your chair at? Oh, there it is. Happy Tuesday, everyone. I will call this meeting of the Milpitas City Council of February 4th to order. While this meeting is being broadcast via Zoom, oral public comment may only be provided live at the City Council meeting in person. The City Council meeting is available for instant translation in over 50 languages with the app called Wordly. It's called accessible via mobile phone. You can get it through on your computer, video displays, by scanning the QR code located on the title page of the agenda in the upper right-hand corner. So back to today's business. City Clerk Guzetta, please take roll.
Vice Mayor Barbadillo.
Here.
Councilmember Chua.
Here.
Councilmember Lamb.
Yeah.
Councilmember Lien.
Here.
Mayor Montano.
Here. Okay, thank you so much. Now we will do the Pledge of Allegiance, and we have Vice Mayor Barbadillo that would lead. Ready?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much for that. And so now we're moving on to presentations. So council members, if you could join me on in the front, if you'd like to. Oh, sorry. I'm jumping the gun already. Invocation. I wanted to do the presentations first. Okay, invocation. Go ahead. And that is, Councilmember Lamb.
Of the snake, a time to shed the old, embrace the new, and move forward with grace and wisdom. With each turn of the year, let us honor the lessons of patience, intelligence, and adaptability. We pray for blessing and hope that we find clarity to see beyond obstacles, the wisdom to navigate challenges, and the strength to embrace new opportunity with new hearts. We offer our gratitude for the past year's lesson and welcome the opportunity the new year brings. May this year of the snake bring prosperity, health, and transformation to all, guiding us toward a future filled with wisdom, joy, and fulfillment. Let me say a few words, well wishes in Cantonese. 祝大家新年行好運，孩子們步步高升，學業進步。祝各位身體健康。God bless us all. Thank you.
I was looking at the Wordly if it was if it was the right words that you said. Anyways, sorry about that. Thank you so much, William. And so now we're moving on to presentations. So if the council would join me on the floor. So welcome, everyone. So we are here to celebrate Black History Month. We had our Black History Month presentation yesterday, and thank you all for those that attended. We had it at the Civic Plaza right there behind the community center. So we are here today to recognize and celebrate Black History Month in the city of Milpitas. This year's theme, African Americans and Labor, highlights the significant role Black workers have played in shaping our history, our culture, and economic progress, both in the U.S. and beyond. Black History Month reminds us of the struggles for equality and justice, while also celebrating the resilience, contributions, and achievements of African Americans in every field. Let us use this month to learn, reflect, and continue working toward a future of equity and inclusion for all. Join me, Mayor Carmen Montano, and the Milpitas City Council in proclaiming the month of February 2025 as Black History Month in the city of Milpitas. And I'm going to ask Don Brown, who I grew up with in Sunny Hills, to come over here and accept this proclamation from the city of Milpitas. Thank you so much for being here and accepting this proclamation. And if you would like to say a few words, I would love for you to say a few words. I'll put it here and then you say a few.
Wow. Thank you so very much. I am honored. I am also just really proud of Milpitas. I grew up here, as Carmen said, and I think for us to continue to make sure that we honor the diversity that exists here in the city is both humbling and encouraging. I look forward to continue working with you, Carmen, and members of the council to just continue to make sure that we are all able to reach our highest and greatest selves in the ways that that we can. So thank you so much. Very grateful.
And we're going to take a picture. Come over here. Let's take a
Lorena,
picture.
did you want to come out?
Have somebody take that picture for you.
Daniel can take.
I will.
You guys will. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. That's it. Thank you so much, everyone. And so now, now let's move on to public forum. So members of the public are invited to speak on any item that does not appear on today's agenda. Please note that oral public comment may only be provided live at the City Council meeting in person. Public forum will be limited to 2 minutes. City Clerk, do we have any members of the public that would like to speak?
I have no public speakers for public forum.
Is there anyone in the public, in the audience, that would like to say any comments that is not on the agenda? Do we have Montemayor? Welcome.
The mayor, vice mayor, members of the city council, city manager and staff, Voltaire Montemayor of Milpitas. Yeah, I used to do this. It's just like I'm following up all of the previous speakers. Very good encouragement. Snake are considered a little dragon. So, and the Black history, we used to celebrate Dixon Landing by the church, Methodist church, but I don't know, maybe not that side this year. And is that the word with the, no offense, but we always remember the word freedom. When we have this Black history. And I don't have much to say, but I'll listen to the city council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Montemayor. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on any item that is not on the agenda in the audience? Anyone? Okay, thank you. So now we're moving on to the announcements of conflict of interest and campaign contributions. We have our city attorney, Christopher Preach.
Thank you, Mayor. I asked the mayor and each council member whether he or she has any financial or personal conflict of interest related to any of the items on tonight's agenda.
Vice Mayor Barbadillo?
None.
Councilmember Chua,
None.
Councilmember Lamb,
None.
Councilmember Lian,
None.
Mayor Montano.
And I am none.
Thank you. I further ask the mayor and the members of the Milpitas City Council to please disclose any campaign contributions of $100 or more received within the last 12 months from any of the parties entering into contracts with the city on tonight's agenda, or contributions received from development project applicants for development projects on tonight's agenda.
Vice Mayor Barbadillo,
None.
Councilmember Chua,
None.
Councilmember Lamb,
None.
Councilmember Lian,
None.
Mayor Montano.
And I am none.
Let the record reflect no reported conflicts. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you. And so now, reading of the City Code of Conduct. Is there anyone here that would like, council members that would like to read it? Volunteer. We'll have a Councilmember Chua.
Thank you, Mayor. Milpitas City Council Code of Conduct. Be respectful and courteous. Model civility. Avoid surprises. Praise publicly and criticize privately. Focus on the issue, not the person. Refrain from using electronic devices while on the council dais. Disclose conflicts of interest and affiliations related to the agenda items. Separate governing from campaigning. The council speaks with one voice after making a policy decision on issues. Respect the line between policy and administration. Council will hold one another accountable to comply with this code of conduct. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much for that, Councilmember Chua. And so now moving on to the approval of the agenda. Is there anyone that would like to make any changes before making a motion? I see Councilmember Lamb. See if I could, hold on. Oh. Did you press that button on? Oh, there you go.
Oh, okay. Okay, never mind.
Okay, so it was the agenda was motion for approval by Councilmember Chua and seconded by Councilmember Lian. And so now we'll call for the vote.
Vice Mayor Barbadillo,
Aye.
Councilmember Chua,
Aye.
Councilmember Lamb,
Aye.
Councilmember Lian,
Aye.
Mayor Montano.
And I am an aye. Okay, thank you. And now moving on to the consent calendar. Staff, do you have any comments to make on the consent calendar or changes?
No, we have no comments, Mayor. Thank you.
There are no comments from staff. So now I will ask the council if you would like to proceed as agendized or if anyone would like to pull an item on the consent calendar. And then we have, excuse me, Councilmember Lamb.
From the consent.
Can you speak a little bit louder?
Yes, I would like to pull C8 from the consent.
C8, is there anyone else that would like to pull any item there? If not, I'd ask for a motion to approve the consent calendar without pulling item C8.
Mayor, you need public comment first.
Public comment on the consent calendar? I don't see any, so we'll ask the council.
To approve.
We have Councilmember Lian. Hold on. Councilmember Lian has made a motion to accept the consent calendar except for pulling out C8, and then we have a second by Councilmember Chua. So now we'll call for the vote.
Vice Mayor Barbadillo,
Aye.
Councilmember Chua,
Aye.
Councilmember Lamb,
Aye.
Councilmember Lian,
Aye.
Mayor Montano.
And I am an aye. Thank you for that. And now we'll be moving on to public hearings. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Our first item tonight is a review, or it's a resolution of the fiscal year 24-25 development and storm impact fee schedule. This is for the transit area specific plan as well as Calaveras Boulevard widening project and the storm drain fee. And we have our finance director, Luz Cafrisi Howe, here to present the item.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor
Welcome.
Montano, Vice Mayor Barbadillo, Council Members Chua, Lian, and Lam. I hope everybody's staying dry this evening. I have a short presentation. I'll go through it, interrupting if you wish. This is always a conversation with me. So this is, as our city mayor has already introduced, we can go to the next slide, please. The State of California Mitigation Act and the City of Milpitas Municipal Code allows the city to collect mitigation fees to help manage the effects of new construction and development. The city has established these fees in three particular areas: the transit area specific plan, the Calaveras Boulevard widening, which is about a 1-mile stretch from Able Street to Milpitas Boulevard, and the storm drain fee, which covers a couple of different areas as well. Next slide, please. So first, we're going to talk about the transit area specific plan. It's a little bit difficult to see, but on the map that you have to the right of the slide, it is in dotted line, the Milpitas metro area site. And on June 3rd, the city adopted the transit area specific plan, which aims to redesign a 437-acre transit area near the Great Mall to create new homes, offices, hotels, and shops, all near a new BART station and VTA light rail. The transit area specific plan, which is a TAS, is the impact fee, which is also nicknamed TATIF, is a development impact fee that builders must pay for infrastructure improvements in the Milpitas transit area. The fee paid depends upon the size of the respective development project and helps to cover the costs of upgrading the Milpitas transit area infrastructure. On February 7th, 2023, the city updated that TAS area and expanded the area from 437 acres to about 510 acres, and it's now called the Milpitas Metro Specific Plan. Next slide, please. And so we are,
So you said that we could interrupt?
of course,
So can you back the slide, the previous slide?
of
So,
course.
You said that we expanded the task. So can you show us where on that map was expanded? Which area was included?
It is not on that map, ma'am. This is a map from the 2008 study, but I can provide you that map under separate cover. We will do so.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next slide, please. If you could go back a little bit, just one slide. And this is the increase that's recommended. The increase is recommended is the same. You've actually seen this before, except for Councilmember Lamb. This was done before your tenure here. And essentially what we're doing is increasing the rates from one year to the next with the what is called the construction cost index fee. This is established by the Engineering News Record, which is the publication of choice for that particular industry, and it is an increase of 3.59%, and that represents the inflation rate for construction costs in the city, in the Bay Area, from December 2022 to December 2023. And I can go to the next slide, please. We'll move on from this to the specific Calaveras Boulevard widening traffic impact fee. As you can see by the map, it covers that's roughly about 1 mile, 1.1 miles from Able Street to Milpitas Boulevard. And if you could go to the next slide, we'll go over those increases. And that, once again, is simply last year's fees increased by the construction cost index by 3.59. It's a straightforward calculation. And finally, the last impact fee we're discussing tonight. This is a storm drain impact fee. This is the latest drawing for it. It's a little bit colorful. I will say, but essentially it incorporates three areas. It's the future development area of the Milpitas Metro Specific Plan area that we just talked about in the task, the Gateway Main Street Specific Plan area, which is the GSP, and then the remaining urban service area. And so originally the original fee was done way back when, and we changed it, updated once again in February 6, 2024. As you can see, we have a fairly large comprehensive system We are responsible for the underground infrastructure while Valley Water manages the most major waterways and the downstream creeks. And so next slide, please. And this is the recommended storm drain fee. This is an update once again to what was seen in 2024, roughly a year ago. And once again, it's just simply inflated by 3.59%. Last slide, lead to the recommendation. I just want to advise the council that this does not affect any developers who are currently in the pipeline. In other words, if they pulled any sort of permits or submitted any drawings, these will just take effect with any new developers. And with that, I am here at your pleasure to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation. So, excuse me. So now I'm going to open it up to the public for any comments on this item.
I have a public speaker card from Georgia Basile. Okay. Never mind. I have no speaker cards for this item.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to make any comments on the item that was just presented? We have Mr. Montemayor.
Thank you. Well, I don't know if we are expecting some figures to at least to think about. Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. So now we'll ask the council for any discussion on the item. Is there anyone from the council that wants to make any comments on this item? We have Councilmember Barbadillo.
Thank you, Mayor. So TASP is a 437-acre area. And may we know how much of the 437 is currently occupied and how much is to be developed?
To Jay Lee, who is the planning director, that's a question I cannot respond to. Or perhaps our city manager can respond to that.
Yeah, the area is a redevelopment area, so it's all developed in one way or the other. There are no vacant parcels, to my knowledge, there. So other than those that have been cleared for future development, so everything is developed one way or the other.
All right. So what are we expecting to impose on, since the projects on the pipeline are not impacted by these impact fees? What are we expecting to impose these fees to, if most of the area has been developed or readily developed?
Yeah, for future development, that's a different question. So there are areas designated in the Metro Plan that would be available for redevelopment. So those areas would be along Main Street. For example, the city owns 3 or 4 parcels along Main Street that are slated for that are currently older commercial buildings. Those are zoned to be redeveloped as high density housing. The Great Mall site is included in this, and over the next 20-30 years, that site could redevelop as mixed use development. And also the other example I would use is along Montague Expressway. The areas that are currently developed with older industrial buildings would be redeveloped. They are zoned and have for the potential to be redeveloped for future manufacturing and high tech industry and office development.
All right. So this will these future projects will,
These are future projects,
okay, possible future projects will be
not
affected by
possible,
this.
real future projects.
All right. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? We have Councilmember Chua. Hold on a minute. Okay. Did you get it?
A clarification on that one. So what I'm looking for is, so the variance from last 2022 to 2023, as you stated, is like $537.06. So my question is, I don't know if it's available now, but if it's not, can you give us a breakdown of last year's actual impact fee collected based on the transit area specific plan? You know, there's residential, commercial, office.
Yes, I can
I
do
just
that.
need,
I don't
yeah.
have it here.
Oh, you do?
But
Oh,
I
okay.
don't, no, I don't have it here.
Oh,
But I
okay.
can provide you along with the map, the up-to-date map. And so just to be clear, you're talking about the TAS, so TASP, the Transit Area
Right.
Specific Plan.
And if you can break it down as well with the Calaveras Boulevard impact fee and also the storm drain impact fee.
Yeah,
I would like to see how we did last 2023, because I think that's what you have.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you have the 2024 already, but
We have 2024 because we've closed the year, the fiscal
Oh,
year.
awesome.
And we'll give you what we have, but we'll break it out as much as possible per these activities. And so we'll provide it you for all three.
yeah,
I
if we
think.
can have like, I would like to see the trend.
Of
is
course.
22, 23, 24.
Of course.
And please share it with the rest of the council.
Of course. I'll
Thank-
provide it to you through the city manager as always.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to make any more comments? If not, this is about, this is a storm drainage. So I had a couple of questions. Excuse me. Does this also include the maintenance of the storm drains?
This includes development and maintenance of the storm drains, yes.
The underground conduits? Is
It's
that
the-
when we do that, that machine that cleans out all the debris in there?
For those specific areas, yes. This is for those specific areas. And it is just the underground structure because that's what we are responsible for. And it also means but we don't have, yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's been raining a lot this
Yeah.
evening, and there are some streets that are flooded, and I was just wondering if we're being proactive and cleaning all that debris, because there's sometimes, a lot of the storm drains are clogged with a lot of debris. And, are we, does this also ensure that we're out there cleaning those storm drains out?
So I would defer to Christian Dorenzo because if I start answering questions about what he's doing out in the street, come and start answering finance questions, and that can't be done. So if Christian is available, I'd ask him to speak to that for you. And if not here, he'll get back to you. My presumption is those crews are always
online?
working.
He is
Christian?
available on Zoom. I just promoted him to panelist.
Christian, are you there? There's a couple of streets that are flooded on Able right now, and I think one of those storm drains is clogged up. And I just want to ensure that that this storm drain fee is really going to be to maintain those storm drains. And like I said, I think we need to be more proactive about cleaning those storm drains. But with that, I'll ask the City Council to move on this item. And we have Councilmember Chua.
Mayor, we have the Public Works Director available on Zoom.
Oh, okay, I thought he wasn't available. Okay. So Christian,
Yes, ma'am.
how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. It's been raining a lot this evening, and there's a couple of streets, especially on Able right now, that they're flooded.
Yes.
And right there, Able and Sarah, between Calaveras, Able, and Sarah, and I think it's getting worse. People are having to go all the way around instead of going through that lake. But yeah, I just wanted you to know, to be aware of that site.
We are, Mayor. I appreciate the comment. We have been on storm patrol watch for probably the last 48 hours. And, these are sort of repeat offender sites where we've accustomed to needing to address them as much as we can. So I just wanted, to clarify a comment about the storm drain impact fee. The impact fee is specific to that area where those fees are collected, and they are really for capital investments that are as a result of the development or the demand posed by the development. So it's not so much maintenance, it's for the infrastructure upsizing. Okay.
Okay, so yeah, so it's for those, the TASP area.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody that, we have Councilmember Chua?
So, City Attorney, do you need to do something before I move a motion to adopt the resolution? No need? Nothing? Okay. Move to adopt resolution approving the fiscal year 2024-25 development and storm impact fee schedule for transit area specific plan impact fee, Calaveras widening traffic impact fee, and storm drain fee. So move.
Is there a second? So we have a motion by Councilmember Chua and a second by Councilmember Lin. So call for the vote.
Vice Mayor Barbadillo,
Aye.
Councilmember Chua,
Aye.
Councilmember Lamb,
Aye.
Councilmember Lian,
Aye.
Mayor Montano.
And I am an aye. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And so now moving on to item 12, which is consider substantial amendments to the 22-25 consolidated plan. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, in short, this item is our annual presentation of the CDBG presentation by our housing team. As you noted, it includes amendments to the existing 22-25 consolidated plan and 24-25 annual action plan. So that's last year's items, as well as an initial review of applications for this year's CDBG allocations by the city. And we have our housing official, Robert Musalam, here to make the presentation.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, and City of Milpitas residents. I'm going to begin this presentation with a brief overview of tonight's item. There are two purposes for tonight's public hearing. The first is related to a substantial amendment to the existing consolidated and annual action plan. The second is for guidance on the upcoming new consolidated and annual action plan set to take effect on July 1st, 2025. So I'll begin with a brief background on CDBG, followed by a brief explanation of the need for the substantial amendment. And then Root Policy Research, our consolidated plan consultant, will present on the consolidated plan, and then I'll conclude the presentation with a summary of our applications for the upcoming CDBG fiscal year. So with that, I'll begin. On the next slide, please. So some quick background on CDBG, Community Development Block Grant. Sorry, one slide back, please. Thank you. Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG, is a grant program administered by the Department of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD. Through the federal budget, we receive a yearly allocation of funding to allocate to activities that service our community. We do not yet know our final funding allocation from HUD, but we project to receive approximately $600,000 this year. Next slide, please. So each activity must benefit one of the following national objectives. Number one, benefit low and moderate income persons. Two, eliminate or prevent slum or blight. And three, responding to a natural disaster. Just for your information, all of our applications this evening for prospective activities are to benefit low and moderate income persons. Next slide, please. So the table on this slide provides the income limits at or below the threshold to receive CDBG funding based on household size. So you could see based on persons in the household, you go to the number, and anything below that number meets the eligibility for CDBG funding within that household size. Next slide, please. And then some CDBG policies. HUD allows a maximum of 15% of the total funds to be used for public services, 20% of the total funds to be used for planning and administration, 65% of the total funds for capital projects. There's no cap on economic development activities. We fund a minimum of $5,000 per grant, and all awarded funds must directly service Milpitas residents and/or microenterprises. Next slide, please. So onto the substantial amendment. A substantial amendment is required when we are reallocating more than 25% of the grant amount. Back in 2023, staff came to council with a request to relaunch the home rehab loan program. When we were able to relaunch it in early 2024, and since, staff has been promoting the program, but due to lack of interest, staff has been unable to use the funds, and we are now searching for alternative uses of those funds to satisfy HUD's spending requirements. The city has received repayments to the revolving loan fund totaling over $675,000, which needs to be spent as soon as possible to meet timeliness in April of 2025. The staff is recommending reallocating $148,000 in revolving loan funds to each economic development and rebuilding together Silicon Valley, as these two activities are currently being funded through the current annual action plan and are both able to spend the additional funding by the timeliness deadline. Besides rebuilding together Silicon Valley and the Microenterprise Assistance Program that economic development is administering, there are no additional activities or options that exist to satisfy the timeliness deadline. And due to the intensive nature to maintain, staff is also recommending to sunset the home rehab loan program. It is important to note, this is not council's only option. It is simply the one that we are recommending. So as a summary of council's options is listed on the next slide. So if we can move to the next slide, please. So option one would be to maintain the home rehab loan program as it currently operates and wait for interest to develop. And then we would subsequently spend those funds as those loan opportunities present themselves. Number two, the recommended option, to reallocate $148,000 in revolving loan funding to each Rebuilding Together Silicon Valley and the Microenterprise Assistance Program, and then to reallocate the remaining future revolving loan funds to any future economic development related activities. And then number three, which would be sort of a blended option, is to reallocate funding to both economic development and capital activities beyond what we've recommended. It should be noted, however, that the activities that we presented have been vetted and are ready to launch. Any other activities would require staff time to vet and ensure that they meet a national objective, and that likely wouldn't satisfy the timeliness deadline. Also note that the funding cannot be reallocated to public services, as this would exceed the annual HUD cap. Next slide, please. And some context for why we're recommending further funding for microenterprises. MEEP 2.0, the Microenterprise Assistance Program, will offer additional funding of $12,500 for microenterprises on South Main Street and $7,500 for microenterprises elsewhere in Milpitas. They expect approximately 14 microenterprises to benefit, and if the home rehab loan funding were to transfer over completely to economic development related activities, that a further 300 plus microenterprises could benefit from that funding. As for Rebuilding Together Silicon Valley, they will continue to provide critical in-home repairs for an additional 10 low-income homeowners. And lastly, and most importantly, not continuing the home rehab loan program does save the city money long-term by not having to pay administrative costs to keep the program active. So this concludes the first part of my presentation. I will now turn it over to Root Policy Research to go through the consolidated plan portion of this presentation. Then I will return to finish the annual action plan applications. Thank you. Next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Robert. I hope everybody can hear me. This is Heidi Agler from Root Policy Research, and I'm going to go over a bit of background about the 2025-2030 Consolidated Plan. And I'll go quickly over the information that Robert presented already about CDBG. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And I just wanted to note that I am going to focus a bit on some of the engagement and housing market analysis slides. You can go ahead and go forward. Go ahead to the next slide. A consolidated plan. Robert introduced the concept of a consolidated plan. And just a note, we've been working on this with the other jurisdictions in Santa Clara County as well as the county. They brought the jurisdictions together to achieve efficiencies in doing these plans all together. So we've been doing community engagement as well as housing and economic development and community development analysis, and looked at gaps in community and supportive services, both for Milpitas individually, but also countywide. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And this primarily, as Robert mentioned, concerns the Community Development Block Grant. These other programs are, funding is available through those other programs countywide. And the city of San Jose actually manages a couple of these, but then administers the grants countywide. Next slide. This just shows you the division between the different types of jurisdictions and where they fall in terms of HUD's planning. Milpitas is what's called a participating jurisdiction and therefore is doing a full plan. This plan is a complement to your other plans, such as your housing elements. So think of it as working in tandem, these funds as working in tandem in helping you achieve your housing element goals. Next slide. And Robert covered this, so you can go ahead and go to the next slide. going to talk a bit about the community engagement findings. We fielded a resident and stakeholder survey. This was fielded countywide. We got a little over 1,000 responses from people who live in the northern part of Santa Clara County. We also fielded the survey to stakeholders, and the demographics of the respondents from Milpitas represented both your higher income and middle income individuals, as well as very low income individuals who typically have the hardest time trying to find housing. Go forward. I just wanted to touch on one element that we found in the data analysis on community development needs. And you'll see here in this slide, this lists in descending order how the share of people who responded to the survey in terms of the category that they chose as being most critical for community development needs. And job training programs really jumped out in addition to help for small businesses. But you can see in this slide that of all of the potential activities that you could use these funds for under the community development umbrella, job training was a very, very popular activity. Next slide. We also did a number of workshops in the fall and in the month of December to support the plan. A wide variety of participants, largely representing the nonprofits who service the county and provide services in Milpitas. These bullets here toward the end of the slide show you Milpitas specific feedback. Stakeholders told us that there's a large need for shelter for single adults, seniors, recommended hotel motel conversions to provide temporary and transitional housing for people at risk of and who have fallen into homelessness. Rental assistance was also mentioned pretty frequently with a priority for seniors as being a top need. Assistance with utilities came up a lot as well. And then kind of bigger picture, navigating the systems of trying to get services. This has come up not only in Milpitas, but also countywide. Milpitas's Main Street was identified as a location for priority economic development needs. And then there was a lot mentioned toward better collaboration and more coordination with surrounding jurisdictions and to ensure that people get the services that they need. Go forward. And I'm just going to end with some of the market analysis and some of the top level information from the analyses that we have conducted. You'll see these in the draft plan. One thing I wanted to highlight is just the incredible diversity that you all have in your housing stock. Milpitas has the highest share of townhomes in the region at 19% of housing units. So townhomes comprise 19% of all of your housing units, and that's really extraordinary. And that does help you achieve a higher level of affordability and access to affordable products. Next slide. Your median rent is higher than the median for the county overall, but it's pretty similar to Santa Clara City and Sunnyvale. That said, though, rents have increased pretty significantly across the board, but also in Milpitas. And the median rent is now $624 per month than it was just 7 years ago in 2018. Next slide. And this shows you the increase in the median home price. We also do a calculation where we determine the salary or the income that is needed to be able to buy. In 2018, a household with a combined income of $102,000 could afford to buy in the city, and that's jumped up to $145,000 today. Next slide. And then these last two slides show you what we call the gaps analysis. So we take a look at, and this is for the county as well as Milpitas toward the end of that table, we take a look at supply in terms of the number of rental units in this case that meet the needs of households in the AMI categories. And then we look at the number of households that fall into those categories. And on the far right column where you see the red, that's where there is a gap. In the county overall, for individuals earning less than 30% of the AMI, so that's roughly $50,000 a year, there was a shortage of 41,474 units. In Milpitas, there's a shortage of 911 units. You also have a gap up to 50% of the AMI of about 1,104 units. So you're about 1,000 units short to be able to really meet the needs of your low-income renters. Go forward. And in terms of the rental purchase gaps, we look here at the share of households that fall, renter households that fall in the different AMI categories, and we compare that to the share of units that are on the market and affordable to them. And the upshot here is that about half of your renters have income of less than 128,000, but only 5% of your units on the market are affordable to those renters. And so it's very, very difficult to be able to buy if you're a renter, a moderate income renter, and even a high income renter in Milpitas. Next slide. And that concludes my presentation. I'll pass it back to Robert, and then I'm happy to take questions at the conclusion of the presentation.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Thank you. Thank you to Root Policy Research for the presentation on the consolidated plan. I'm going to now walk you through our annual action plan applications for fiscal year 2025-2026. So the city received 19 applications from 17 different organizations. We received over $1.1 million in requests. We had 1 program administration application, 2 capital applications, 3 economic development applications, and 13 public service applications. Next slide, please. So this table displays the available funding across each category and the caps that may apply to each. As mentioned, the city received over $1.1 million in application requests, and we expect to receive approximately $600,000 in funding. So as you can see, we have some tough decisions that have to be made with our funding. Next slide, please. The next 6 slides will display the applications for funding requests, and I'll start with the public service applications. Catholic Charities requests $11,000 to assist 8 residents through their long-term care ombudsman program. Child Advocates request $15,000 to provide for youths a court-appointed special advocate. Hope for the Unhoused requests $10,000 to assist 80 unhoused individuals with hygiene kits. Hope for the Unhoused also requests $5,000 to create a survey to identify households at risk of homelessness. Staff did determine that this activity would not meet a national objective and have deemed it ineligible for HUD funding, so it will not be considered. Next slide, please. Life Moves requests $125,000 to assist 100 unhoused individuals through their emergency assistance network. Lighthouse of Hope requests $5,000 to provide counseling and psychological support to 20 residents. Next Door Solutions to Domestic Violence requests $25,000 to provide support services for 48 survivors of domestic violence. Project Sentinel requests $42,000 to provide tenant-landlord dispute services for 125 Milpitas residents. Next slide, please. Sleeping Bags for the Homeless requests $15,000 to provide supportive essential items for 125 unhoused individuals. I just want to note that since they applied, they have since withdrawn their application and it will not be considered for funding. Senior Adults Legal Assistance requests $15,000 to assist 20 seniors with free legal services at the Barbara Lee Senior Center. Silicon Valley Independent Living Center requests $16,048 to provide housing and support services for 48 individuals with disabilities. Sourcewise requests $25,000 to provide home-delivered meals to 60 Milpitas residents. YWCA requests $13,908 to provide support services for 30 survivors of domestic violence. Next slide, please. Now our capital applications. Rebuilding Together Silicon Valley requests $216,000 to provide critical home repairs and accessibility modifications for 30 low-income residents. And Terrace Gardens requests $250,000 to repair the roofs of the A, B, C, and D buildings. Next slide, please. Now our economic development activities. City of Milpitas' Economic Development Department requests $120,000 to provide 21 microenterprises with economic benefits through the Microenterprise Grant Program. City team requests $50,000 to provide 20 Spanish-speaking women with microenterprise knowledge and experience through financial literacy and business development classes. And Upwards requests $160,000 to provide 20 in-home childcare providers with business support and technical assistance. Next slide, please. And lastly, our program administration application. Project Sentinel requests $21,000 to assist 10 Milpitas residents with fair housing education. The remaining funds in the program administration bucket will be captured by the city to offset the administrative burden of managing the CDBG program, and that number is yet to be determined. Next slide, please. So, council considerations. We will look to you for feedback on your goals and match those to consolidated plan goals. Staff will then balance the available funding with the funds requested and use other factors such as applicant experience and activity eligibility to determine the best recommendation for council to consider at the next public hearing. Next slide, please. For tonight, we ask you to give us guidance on the areas you would like to see CDBG funds prioritized. We have listed here some example strategic plan goals. The first two, affordable housing and non-housing, are already in our existing plan, and we expect to keep those strategic plan goals in the next consolidated plan. And for one recommendation, staff recommends adding homelessness as a priority area to the next consolidated plan, as it is not in our current plan. Next slide, please. Some next steps. After you each give us your recommended guidance, we will wait for Congress to pass HUD's fiscal year 2025 appropriation. As many of you saw, the current administration froze and then unfroze federal funds for a day. We don't know what the impact of the upcoming actions will be, but we will endeavor to be ready to proceed with our allocation recommendations regardless of what comes next. Staff will hold a public meeting with the Community Housing Commission in April. That's another opportunity for the public and our applicants to give comment on their applications. And then when we know what our final allocations are, we will come back to council using the feedback we received tonight and all public comments received to deliver our recommendation to you. We are projecting that to occur in May of 2025, but it could be later depending on when the funding allocations are released. Next slide. There's no fiscal impact associated with this item. Next slide, please. And finally, our recommendations. Number one, conduct a public hearing to provide direction to staff on CDBG priority areas or specific applications to the City Council that the City Council seeks to fund. Approve a substantial amendment to the fiscal year 2022-2025 consolidated plan and fiscal year 2024-2025 annual action plan. Authorize city manager or designee to make any necessary changes to the approved fiscal year 2022-2025 consolidated plan and fiscal year 2024-2025 annual action plan. And number five, authorize city manager or designee to sunset the home rehab program and reallocate any future program income earned from the revolving loan fund towards economic development activities. That concludes my last presentation to the city of Milpitas. Special thanks to Michelle Silva for all her efforts managing the city's CDBG program. It's been a pleasure working with the council to accomplish your many housing goals. I'm available to answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Robert. And so now I will open the public hearing and call for any comments on this item.
We have several public speaker cards. I'm going to read the first three off in a row. I'll ask public speakers to alternate between microphones. You'll see both of these have green lights on them. The first speaker gets set up here, the second here, and go on so forth so that we can get through everybody. We'll start with the first public speaker is Malia Pires, followed by Marina Sanchez, and then Kathy Weselby.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Montano, Vice Mayor, and esteemed council members of the City of Milpitas. My name is Malia Pires. I'm the Director of Lasting Solutions at City Team, where we ignite hope and restore lives. I'm here for a few reasons this evening. To say thank you for the current CDBG partnership with City Team, to share in our commitment to the City of Milpitas through collaborative outreach efforts, and to ask for your support for the upcoming CDBG grant cycle application. First, thank you for your partnership during this current grant cycle. I'd especially like to thank Michelle Silva for her support, communication, and professionalism. Applying for CDBG grants is new for the organization, and it's just been a pleasure. We've been providing hot meals through the current grant cycle. And City Team is Second Harvest, the Silicon Valley's largest partner across San Mateo and Santa Clara County, currently running 42 pantries. And one of those is here with Milpitas. We're part of the Milpitas Cares Network. We're working with the Silicon Valley Alliance Church with Pastor Warwick and serving over 400 households twice per month. We've served over 800 unique households in the last year. And what we've learned is that food is not enough to help people get out of poverty. It's helping them survive, but it's not helping them thrive. And what we'd like to do with our micro enterprise application is help people move from surviving to thriving. And so what does that look like? It's City Team's micro enterprise and career development arm. It's called Elevate the Neighborhood. And it consists of 5 pillars, which are literacy, and under literacy is English language development, financial literacy, computer literacy. There's many different approaches. I see my time is almost up. Holistic health, small business specific pathways are some of the few. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have Marina Sanchez, followed by Kathy Weselby, then followed by Christian Santos.
Good evening, Mayor Montano, City Council members, and city staff. My name's Marina Sanchez. I'm the property manager at Terrace Gardens Senior Housing, and I'm here to express our deepest gratitude for your ongoing support and to request your consideration for our latest CDBG application. As a nonprofit senior housing community, we proudly serve 184 residents across 148 apartments, providing them with safe, affordable housing right across the street here in Milpitas. Over the past 36 years, the city has been an invaluable partner, helping us maintain and improve our property through multiple CDBG grants, including funding for 2 critical roof replacement projects. Thanks to your generosity, we have been able to ensure that our residents live in a secure and comfortable environment. This year, we are requesting $250,000 in CDBG funding to complete the final phase of our roof replacement project for our A, B, C, and D buildings. This funding would cover materials only and allowing us to fully restore our aging roofs and protect our residents from our elements. Your continued investment in our community has made a lasting impact, and we are incredibly grateful for the support you have provided over the years. This final project will complete the work we've started together and further strengthen our shared commitment to serving the low-income senior population within our city. We deeply appreciate your consideration, and I look forward to continuing this partnership to enhance the quality of life for our residents. Thank you for your time, your consideration, and for your ongoing dedication to our community.
We have Kathy Weselby, followed by Christian Santos, and then Jonathan Dar.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kathy Weselby, and I'm the grants manager for YWCA Golden Gate Silicon Valley. Thank you to the City of Milpitas and the Community Advisory Commission for your support in the past and for the opportunity to apply again. We are proud to provide the residents of the City of Milpitas with a continuum of free essential domestic violence services. This includes 24-hour hotline in English and Spanish, case management, counseling, crisis response, restraining order assistance, therapy and support groups for adults and children, emergency shelter and long-term housing, medical advocacy, prevention services, and other vital resources. We provide these services in the community, literally meeting survivors where they are at physically and emotionally. All services are survivor-centered, culturally responsive, and trauma-informed. We have also maintained a partnership with the Milpitas Police Department over the last 15 years where officers can directly connect Milpitas survivors to YWCA. Unfortunately, we continue to see the importance of these services in Milpitas and throughout our communities. Over the past 5 years, YWCA has seen a 388% county-wide increase in survivors of domestic violence, human trafficking, and sexual assault, and a 76% increase in calls to our 24-hour hotline. Our CDBG proposal respectfully requests $13,908 to provide 30 domestic violence survivors with essential domestic violence services, all of whom will be low and moderate income. We will also provide 24-hour crisis line support, including to callers from Milpitas, and continue responding to Milpitas Police Department reports. On behalf of our staff, volunteers, and survivors we serve, thank you for your support. Together, we can empower our community to live free from domestic violence.
Thank you.
Next, we have Christian Santos, followed by Jonathan Dar, and then Georgia Basile.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Montano and esteemed council members of Milpitas. My name is Christian Santos, and I'm a social work student interning at City Team, and I'm just following for what Malia just said, and I'm here to speak about the Women-Led Initiative program at City Team. And I believe that through their holistic approach, City Team is addressing the unique challenges that many women face by offering a program that focuses on launching wraparound micro enterprises that include financial literacy, health, education, but most importantly, mental wellness. Mental wellness is often overlooked, yet an essential aspect of anyone's success, especially for those starting a business from the ground up. Entrepreneurship can be a difficult path, and for women facing financial instabilities, cultural barriers, or past traumas, the mental load can be overwhelming. City Team is equipping women not only with the tools to succeed financially and professionally, but also with the mental strength to overcome the emotional and psychological hurdles that often accompany this journey. In my 2 semesters of interning at City Team, I have seen the women who have gone through these programs, and they're thriving. They're creating opportunities for themselves and for others. They're becoming role models in their families and in their communities. They're building economic stability and, in turn, benefiting our city. I urge the council to continue supporting and collaborating with organizations like City Team, whose work provide essential services to the city of Milpitas. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next, we have Jonathan Dar, followed by Georgia Basile, and then Leslie Venegas.
Good evening, Mayor Montano, council, staff, residents of Milpitas. My name is Jonathan Dar. I'm the Director of Development at Nextdoor Solutions to Domestic Violence. You all have seen our CDBG applications and passed them. We have one pending. I just want to let you all know we are so thankful to be working with the city of Milpitas to be able to serve residents that come to us. Very similar to what our friends at the YWCA just said, we offer comprehensive services as well. There are not enough services for domestic violence survivors in Milpitas and any of the Santa Clara County, the whole area that we serve. So we do our best with what we have. We're always happy to see these applications come up and are thankful for the staff for their incredible communication with us to let us know when these opportunities arise and when we can be in front of you. So we're available for your questions. Similarly, we offer crisis hotline, shelter and emergency housing, community and systems advocacy, walk-in crisis intervention counseling, risk assessment, safety planning, legal advocacy, attorney accompaniment, restraining order assistance, and other support services. I've been very moved lately by our quilting group, which some of the folks have been there coming in for many, many years. So we have survivors supporting new survivors coming in and creating a community of connection and watching people heal and become better able to move throughout the community and thrive in their lives and their businesses makes a huge difference. So thank you. There's so many ways. You're always welcome to come see us. We'd be happy to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Georgia Basile, followed by Leslie Venegas.
I got confused about the alternating podiums. I'm sorry. Good evening. I'm Georgia Basile, Directing Attorney of Senior Adults Legal Assistance, or SALA. We provide free legal services to Milpitas residents 62 or older, targeting clients that are low income or at risk of abuse or loss of independence. We provide our services, as you probably know, locally at appointments at Barbara Lee Senior Center every month, and by phone for clients that cannot leave their homes or that have emergencies. We are a current CDBG grantee, and we thank you so much. Your funding supports our expanded availability of our service here to Milpitas residents. We're requesting funding to continue these services next year. Last year, 84% of the Milpitas clients we served were very low income. They couldn't afford a private attorney to help them. And 40% were over 75, placing them in great social need. We address a range of matters impacting our clients' daily lives. For example, we assist clients that have problems with public benefits they rely on to meet their basic needs, Social Security, SSI, Medicare, and Medi-Cal. We assist clients that are worried about eviction, senior tenants needing reasonable accommodations in their housing, usually because of disability, or clients whose housing is otherwise in jeopardy. We help clients do very basic planning for the future so they can appoint someone they trust to make decisions when they can no longer do so. And regrettably, we continue to see clients that are victims of financial abuse, usually by someone living in their homes. And we actually have our attorneys go to court and get restraining orders to remove these abusers from their homes so that they can have stable housing once again. We can't charge fees for our services. We can't do fee-generating cases, so we rely primarily upon grants. Your continued funding is more critical than ever in these challenging times to help us provide the highest level of service possible. So we thank you for your support, and we hope you will continue to identify supportive services for seniors as a priority need in the CON plan as you move forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for having us here tonight. And I didn't wrote anything, but I just want to say that we've been doing a great work with the workshops with city team. And basically what we do there is we educate small businesses to how to manage their business, how to start their business, how to continue to grow their business. And I think this is a great opportunity to help them and guide them to grow. And that's going to bring, employment, and it's going to bring something positive for the cities. We did this in Palo Alto, if I'm not mistaken, and it was a really good positive. We had people starting their business already, and they're already following through. Some of them want to do corporations from that. So I think it's baby steps, but I think it's very important for us to support the community that's in need. And that's basically what I have for you guys. I think it would be a great idea to support the proposal. And, I think just something positive for the community is always good. Thank you.
Thank you.
We received 2 more speaker cards. Next is Carol Kahn, followed by Voltaire Montemayor.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor. Thank you for this moment to be able to address you directly. I'm Carol Kahn. I'm the Executive Director of Project Sentinel. We've been active in the community of Milpitas for almost 10 years now. We generally get about 10,000 calls or contacts a year, and we're helping the residents of Milpitas in both the tenant-landlord counseling and mediation dispute resolution area to prevent eviction and otherwise allow people an opportunity outside of court to resolve any differences in their housing conflicts. And then also our Fair Housing Department manages any situations where somebody otherwise is eligible to be protected under the fair housing laws to preserve their housing and gain access to housing. I did want to say just quickly, we're very grateful to the city of Milpitas. We have a lovely relationship over many years. We hope to continue to do that. Please do consider our application this year. It's somewhat back to an original funding level we are hoping still to achieve. As last year, we received a bit of a cut, so we're back to hoping that we can be fully funded this year. I'm happy to answer any questions, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And finally, Voltaire Montemayor.
Thank you. I don't know if I have to represent my group. I could tell that maybe similar as last year, there were extra amount at the end, like in the middle summer, and maybe we were gonna fall on the contingency of the 148K times 2, maybe. I don't know. I'm just guessing. I've just seen that. Anyway, I've read and heard what others say. It's very hard. I'm honestly considering I don't want to compete because of the justification. Anyway, our justification in my group is we feed the needy and the hungry in Thanksgiving. But anyway, considering what I heard, what I read, they are considered most not saying indigenous. So it's like I'm honest to spread the butter to share with the pie. It depends. I think we will escalate. One of our members is in the city council, like the Knights of Columbus. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Montemayor.
I have no additional speaker cards, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public that would like to make any more comments? Anyone? Okay, so seeing none, so I will close the public hearing and go back to our city council and for feedback and any comments. Do we have any comments from the city council? We have Councilmember Chua.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank everybody for coming tonight. I know the rain is really a challenge, and thank you. Thank you for being here this evening. It really helps us. I mean, personally, myself, helps to determine how I'm going to vote tonight, or my recommendations are based on the presence, based on your presence, because to me it shows like your commitment and dedication to your causes, if you will. So I do appreciate it, and thank you so much. We will deliberate, and I hope it's, as you know, I always say every year, there's this small pot with a big need. So, but Robert and his team have always been so good in doing the massaging and allocation, and they always come up on top. So you're in good hands. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor.
Is that it? Okay, is anyone else? We have Councilmember Lynn.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I have the representative from Terrace Gardens? Thank you. I have one question. I remember last year you came and have your request for the grants. Well, of course you do remember. What was the amount that you were granted? Do you remember?
We were given $199,999, and that was
And-
able to partially fund our roof replacement project.
Okay, and so this is different. This is
the remaining
ABC
roofs.
and D, and the other one was for?
It was for our community building and our G building.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is that it?
It for me.
Or we have more? Councilmember Lynn, is that it?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Yeah, your mic on. Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Councilmember Lamb, do you have any comments, or Councilmember Barbadillo?
Since we we are instrument in disseminating public funds, my questions will be mostly to educate the public on how we are doing this. So these questions are for the staff. So each year we receive the CBDG, and we have partners, regular partners, mostly those spoke today. The question is, from the part of the CBDG, there's 3 areas where the requirements of certain percentage is to be distributed, right? Capital, public benefit, and the one is administration, economic development.
Program administration.
Right. So aside from the applicants' qualifications, do we have any oversight on how these funds are spent once we grant them?
Yes, so great question, Vice Mayor. We have implemented like yearly audits of each of the subgrantees. So our team prepares a list of audit questions. We send them to each of the subgrantees, and then we go visit them on site and conduct an audit to ensure that the funds are being spent in the way that they applied for them and the way that they're saying that they're being spent.
Okay. So I think there's two components of this presentation. One is for the upcoming CBDG, and the other one on the consolidated plan, we're reappropriating current funds from the current CBDG that we had last year.
These are revolving loan funds. These funds exist in a separate pool of CDBG money that's called a revolving loan fund that has historically gone to funding home rehab loan projects. And as these home rehab loan projects get repaid, the city is then mandated by HUD to reuse those funds and respend them, right? Reallocate them. So the main way to do that is to continue to refund, other home loans, other home rehab loan projects. And as mentioned in the presentation, we just had a challenge doing that. And at some point, HUD, will penalize us for not spending those funds. And so we're looking for ways to spend down a little bit of the balance so that we can reallocate those funds to activities that will spend them in this fiscal year and help us with that timeliness. And then there will still be a remaining balance of about $350,000, maybe a little bit more, that will be allowed to be allocated in a different way, however council chooses. But we're just simply asking for some consideration to reallocate those funds now, so we have a little bit more flexibility to spend funds now to get them into the community and also to meet timeliness at HUD level.
All right. So if I understand it right, so we're expecting the 2025 CBDG around 600,000.
Yes.
And for purposes of the consolidated plan, these are the revolving plan and revolving funds that came from former CBDG funds.
Yes, they were applied to a long time ago. It's been in a long established account with the city.
So with regards to the revolving funds that that we still have, will it be the same guidelines for distribution, certain percentages to use them, to reappropriate them, or?
So unfortunately, no. The funds become, if we were to use them as they currently are being used, which is a loan program, then there isn't any percentages. It's the activity that we've selected, and the activity that we have currently selected is that home rehab loan program. Okay, so all of the funds could go back into the home rehab loan program if we had enough loans to give those funds to. When we do a reallocation, we're moving those from a loan to a grant program, and they get dumped into what's called program income into the grant funds, and then the grant funds have special rules with what we could do with those funds based off of those caps. I'm trying not to make this very complicated, but I'm just trying to explain that they go from loans to grants, and the one aspect that we can't use the funds for are the public services. It totally just pushes us out over the 15%, and we don't have any flexibility. So the only flexibility that we can use those funds for are capital projects and economic development activities, because those have a higher threshold, and we can use those funds. We can use those funds much more easily within those two program categories.
Okay, so public services are left with that 15% on each year of the CBDG funding.
Unfortunately, it's just not possible. And that's the challenge, right? We have a majority of our applications are in public services, and that's the lowest percentage that we can allocate funding to.
And we only have approximately 90,000 to
That's
distribute to public services. And we have 796,000 in application.
346,000, I believe, is the number of public service applications. Yeah. And so that's the challenge.
Are there any other groups that tried to apply? I mean, we're trying to. Well, my vision is to, as one speaker said, spread the butter, right? So, and I'm sure every applicant's dollar amount request is well meant, but is there a way to distribute those more, or we're just too limited on funds and too scarce in applicants?
We're really just limited on funds, unfortunately. What we try to do is receive council feedback on the areas that council wants us to prioritize. And in some years, council has said, make it equitable as possible. And that's what we come back with. In other years, there are certain activities that are more prioritized than not, or certain categories. I'm just throwing out there like seniors that are prioritized, right? And that's the challenge. So we really look to you all to provide that feedback so that we can go back and kind of fit them into an approvable allocation amount.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Is there anyone else? Anyone else? We have Councilmember Lamb.
Yes, Robert. Currently, how much do we have for the loans amount?
The revolving loan balance is just over $675,000.
Okay, and then you're proposing we move 148,000 to the grant, and then the remaining amount, how much time we have to use up the remaining?
It is as soon as possible, but we're requesting 148,000 each for the activity, so a total of 296,000 of that 675 to be moved, so that we can just lower the amount of available balance that we show to HUD. You would still need to spend the funds as soon as possible, but we would look to council during the next annual action plan process to give us guidance on the remaining funds beyond the 296 that we're asking you to move today. One recommendation that we made today was to eliminate the home rehab loan program and funnel all of those funds to economic development activities. That's not to say that all of it would go to the micro enterprise assistance program. That just means that council could select other economic development activities that come through the city's application process. Right?
Okay. What are the consequences if we don't spend the housing loan amount?
It's a good question. So what generally happens is a jurisdiction has to meet what's called timeliness. They have to spend a certain amount of their available fund balance by late April, early May each year. The consequence at first would be written notice from HUD, and potentially over time it could lead to funds being taken back by HUD. We haven't seen that they're being that forceful, but that is a potential consequence of not using these funds quickly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And we have Vice Mayor Robadillo.
This question is for economic development, please. All right, so if I look at the consolidated plan and the upcoming CBDG, is it right to assume that your department will get 120,000 from the upcoming CBDG and the proposed reallocated 148,000?
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Vice Mayor and City Council. Alex Andrade, Director of Economic Development and Strategic Initiatives. Thank you for that question. Just to outline how this is working, to add to what you were just saying. So going back to June 18, 2024, the City Council approved $220,000 of CDBG funding for microenterprise grants. We're working on starting that program pretty soon. And then the ask for fiscal year 25-26 is, as you indicated, Vice Mayor, $120,000. The $148,000 that we're also discussing, and you've heard Robert Muslim talk about, that comes from the home rehab loan program.
So your department sitting 200,000 from, you said you will start that from the last grant, 120 and 148.
Yes, the 120,000, if approved by City Council, would be for the next fiscal year. The $220,000 It was approved June 18 of 2024. And if you approve the $148,000 from the home rehab loan program, that funding would be distributed before May 1st in the next few months.
Right. So no, the 120 is for this fiscal year, not next year.
It would be for next fiscal year,
20.
25-26, fiscal year 25-26. Is that correct, Robert? Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So will all this funding will be for micro enterprises like the MEAP that we have?
That's what's worked in the past. In 2020, that's when Housing and Economic Development partnered for the first time. It was October of 2020, just a few months after the pandemic. The City Council approved $220,000 then for the first microenterprise grant program. And our fiscal administrator for that was Enterprise Foundation. So 38 businesses received $5,000 grants. And we also have had a ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act, funded small business grant program of $1.57 million. And small business defined 25 employees or fewer. And then last year, we had the first CDBG funded the MEET program where we had $55,000 that went out to the business community.
Okay, with all of this funding, hopefully, we jumpstart really the small businesses. It seems that we have a lot.
Yes, staff from Economic Development in the last few months of last year went out and talked to 40 businesses specifically about needs. And it was about developing business resource workshops. And it was confirmed that AI, artificial intelligence business workshops is of interest, as well as marketing and advertising and access to capital. And that's really important, that last one, access to capital. So that's essentially a local survey that we did. And just a couple of weeks ago, and although this is the San Jose Chamber of Commerce, they surveyed over 1,000 business representatives in San Jose. And there were various, what they call pinch points. They're trying to develop programming for that. Various issues that are affecting the business community include inflation, high wages, labor costs, finding skilled labor, workforce recruitment, government regulations and fees, marketing and advertising, and specifically, and I'm reading this from an article from the Silicon Valley Business Journal, the small business community specifically identified its top needs as marketing, support, and access to capital and cash flow. We have our business community, especially our microenterprise businesses, that still need assistance as we're moving out of the pandemic. In 2020 is when we learned of the 4,000 or so brick and mortar businesses, 77% of those businesses are microenterprise businesses made up of 1 to 5 employees.
All right, well, thank you. So if we can channel more on public services, just my thought, right? Let's try to channel it on economic development that would create jobs and invite businesses in Milpitas. I think that's a diversion, that's a go around for the very limited resources towards public service.
That's exactly right. It helps our local economy, economic vitality. One of the things that this article was talking about, which is right on, making the connection between housing and labor costs. It's expensive to live here. So our businesses are the ones that create jobs. We're trying to ensure that they create well-paying jobs so that they can stay locally.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We have Councilmember Chua.
Thank you, Mayor. Alex, just piggybacking on the questions, Director Alex Andrade. You said that you got the $200,000 in 2018, and you're just now exhausting that funds?
No.
Is that true?
It's a different program. In 2020, there was a $220,000 program that was executed, and 38 businesses received $5,000 grants. The June 18, 2024 City Council approved economic development dollars, which I think is what you're referring to. That's the program for fiscal year 24-25 that we're going to launch in the next few weeks.
And that one you got last 23, correct?
No, that was approved by the City Council. The dollars were approved by the City Council under the CDBG conversation for fiscal year 24-25. So it's been 6 months and we're getting ready to launch the program now for the current fiscal year.
Okay, how long do you anticipate that program will go? Are you going to do it the way we did the ARPA funding? Grant the small businesses?
Yes, it'll be, hopefully we will have a really good response, and so it'll be a lottery. At the June 18th, 2024 City Council meeting, Councilmember Chua, it was you who wanted to ensure that we help the daycare centers. So,
Right.
yeah, so we'll
They
adhere
didn't have
to
to
that.
go through with the lottery.
Correct. They would
So
be,
my concern is just listening to the feedback is you're just now using that, whatever you got in 23, right? And now you're asking for 120, and then another ask for 148 for the surplus, the surplus or the funds from the home rehab loan program. So that's like, if you're managing the one you're launching the one that you got last year, and now you're like, you have these other two sources. I don't know, that's too much work.
it is a lot of work. I think one of the benefits.
Too much money.
Yes, and it is a lot of money. I agree with that. One of the key components of the $148,000 possibly going out to our business community is speed. You've heard Mr. Musalam say that the dollars must be dispersed by May 1st. So what we're doing in a sense is we're piggybacking off of the $220,000 grant program that we were already going to start. Staff with the city manager's acknowledgement, we paused that so that we could come to you at City Council to see if you're interested in adding the $148,000 on top of that. We already have the program design, the fiscal administrator. We could meet that disbursement of May 1st. It would be really difficult for organizations to meet that.
My concern is, I know I'm a supporter of, I introduced the $1.5 million for the small businesses out of the ARPA funds. And we added another few $100,000 based on the surplus of the ARPA, and I was a supporter of that as well. So I'm looking at where else can we go? Where else can we use these funds besides the economic development? And I'm looking at one of the slides or part of the report is there are other options like purchase acquisition of land. There's eligible CDBG activities, acquisition of real estate properties, disposition, public services, relocation, loss of rental income. There are other ways to use these funds. So
Yes.
I'm just bringing that up.
Yes,
to
under the
rest.
economic development category, yes, I agree, 100%.
So, okay, let me think about that. I have a question
Thank
for.
Can I just add one quick thing to that?
Mhm.
So yes, and all of those are still open to you as options. What we're merely saying tonight is we'd like to carve out 296,000 of the 675 for this purpose to meet the timeliness, and then the remaining balance will still come back to council for further council consideration.
Okay. Because you have like 5 recommendations out of this. I think we need to zero in because it's probably confusing. There are 5 recommendations, like number 1 is conduct a public hearing, which we're doing now. Number 2 is you need direction from the council on how to divvy up the CDBG, right? Provide direction to staff on CDBG priority areas or specific applications to the city council 6 to fund. And that's number 2. And can you explain number 3? Approve a substantial amendment to the 22-25 consolidated plan and 24-25 annual action plan. What is it takeaway? What do you need?
Yeah, so that would be the request to move money from the home rehab loan fund to these other activities. That is the request. So in our current consolidated plan, we've said that we're going to use all of the revolving loan fund money for home rehab loan. We need to amend that because we're moving an amount that's greater than 25% of the total grant. And we're going to amend that to say we'd like to fund $148,000 for microenterprise assistance and $148,000 for rebuilding together as a grant, not a loan.
So that's number 3. So
3 and 4, I believe, are fairly
the
similar. I'm sorry, I don't
same.
have
And
them
then
in front of
number
me.
4 is authorize the amendment.
Yes.
So that's, and number 5 is the key, authorize the city manager to designate to sunset the home rehab program. That's one of your recommendations.
Yes.
I just want to make clear to the
And-
rest of the council that we're dealing with at least 3 or 4 here. So for my take, giving you directions, I would like to see, I'm okay with it's up to you to, like your usual magic, I'm okay with city team. They're asking for 50,000, but the amount will change. The Terrace Garden, they're asking for 250. The YWCA, 13,908. Next Door Solutions, 25,000. Sala, Miss Attorney Basil, 12,500. And Miss Carol Khan for Project Sentinel, they're always been around with us and helping a lot of our tenant landlord disputes. So, and that's kind of like my direction. And for the rebuilding together, you're asking for 148, and for the economic development, what are my options there? You said can I park this amount, or do we need to spend this?
So to be clear, yes, we need to spend it. Can you park it? Yes, you can also choose to park it. There is the potential that HUD might say, hey, you haven't spent this money, we'd like some of it back. It's a possible outcome that you must know about. Is it likely? I can't say for sure.
And the deadline is May 25th this year.
It's late April, early May 2025. Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's why we're asking for a partial amount, right? Just give us enough that we know we can allocate so we can get that number of available balance down, right? And on top of our other activities that we know are going to be spent, we feel pretty good about having a good number if we can get that 296 spent, right?
I think I'm okay with the rebuilding together 148 for now, but I would like to see other areas. And if we, I'm going to wait feedback from the rest. On the last recommendation is to sunset the home rehab program. And you mentioned it takes a lot of time to do the home rehab program because you have to monitor it, how much they're paying, how much they owe, and when they pay. Or my question is, if we sunset this program, what Do we know how much FTE we use to monitor this program, to manage this program?
It's a combination between housing staff and finance. So how much FTE, I couldn't actually project it. But we do have to pay a loan administrator to hold all of the balances, right? And it's a nominal amount. I think it's maybe $9,000 a year. But to administer the home rehab loan program, we also have to pay them to administer the loan application side, and then there's another administrator for the project management of the construction side, all of which has to still be monitored by staff. So there is a significant time constraint. Now we haven't had a loan in a long time, right? We've done like refinances and things like that over the years. But as we've started pushing this program out again, and again with the lack of interest, and I'm just kind of doing the math, it doesn't add up to a lot of savings for the city.
So that would free up FTE time to manage and also save costs for the one administering the program, right? So we have two benefits, if you will, right?
I'd hesitant to say it frees up staff time because we haven't really done anything just yet, right?
Oh, okay.
But I would say there is significant cost savings to the city.
Okay. My question is, what is the balance of the loan rehab program?
The current balance that's available right now is about $675,000. The current balance of all the loans that are still pending is approximately $3 million.
$3 million?
Yeah.
And do we know do we know how long it will take to?
This is the core challenge with the program, is that we can provide a low-income homeowner a loan, and unfortunately, a lot of the ways that we get repaid is somebody passes away, and we have a lien on title, home gets sold, and then we're notified by a title company that, hey, you've got a lien and we need to pay this loan. Where do we pay it? And the lack of predictability is sort of our challenge. We don't know when the funds are going to arrive, and we need to have a strategy beyond home rehab to allocate those funds quickly, or else HUD may penalize us.
So do we have a plan if we sunset the loan rehab program? And you're saying that we still have $3 million, outstanding. So do we have a plan if we dissolve this? How do we monitor the $3 million coming in?
The monitoring is kind of straightforward, right? It gets repaid back into the loan program, and then what we would like to do as a strategy is reallocate that to the grant side, right? Which is what we're proposing tonight, and have all the future funds go towards economic development activities. The reality is the home rehab loan program is of great benefit to people who need it. It's when it's needed, and when we have the funds don't always match, right? And we think that tying up those funds for long periods of time is not as beneficial to the city as, say, investing in small businesses that could generate revenues for the city, right? So that's sort of the strategy, is like over time, we don't know how long, right? We don't know how long it'll take to get all $3 million back, but over time, we'd like to see those funds get used for economic development activities.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. And that's all for now for me, but
Thank you.
later on.
Thank you, Councilmember Chua. So I have a few questions that I'd like to ask. I know HUD has too many restrictions. I mean, it's really, my opinion, it needs to be revamped, because when we're allocated 600,000, okay? And we can only use for public services 90,000. And that's the greatest need. And it's just, it's
backwards. Yeah.
And then capital projects is even more than the public, and then you have program administration, 20%, 120,000. Yeah, it's just upside down. Hopefully it can get fixed. So I guess what I'd like to know is, what are the council's priorities? For example, I would like to fund each and every one of these applicants that came in, because they took the time to come in, and to me that shows me that I think they deserve what they're asking for. So and that would be the 7 applicants that are here that I see here. That's city team, and I really want to commend city team because you guys are really working really hard, working with the churches, with Milpitas Cares. Then we have Terrace Gardens. We need that roof. We have YWCA. The other one was Next Door Solutions for domestic violence. We have Senior Adults Legal Assistance, SALA, and we also have Project Sentinel. Those 7 applicants that came here, I feel that we should give them what they're asking for. But will that go over the 90,000? I guess that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, we're happy to accommodate that request if that's what the council desires, but it has to still fit into the caps.
But will what they're asking, will that be in the parameters of the 90,000?
I believe, I mean, I have to do the math, but I believe that would probably go over 90,000. But I'm sure we can make it work.
Well, for my recommendation is the 7 that came here before us asking for those funds. I would like to give them what they're asking for. I mean, they came here. That, to me, that says a lot. And then going back to the consolidated plan, and we're going to sunset that program because you're right. It's got too many long range projections that we don't even know, and plus the time and to monitor it, the program. I think it's time to sunset it. But you're asking where should we put these that extra funding for the revolving fund? Can you put up that list? That's where we can put that. Where can we allocate that money? Is that
It's really just to capital projects and economic development activities.
so? Okay, so capital projects, because we have a huge need in unhoused, and I've been wanting to put a safe parking. Can that money be used for safe parking to purchase a land that can provide safe parking for the unhoused? Because I really want to help the working poor, the people that are working, but they have a hard time paying their rent, so they're living in their cars. And I would like to provide them a safe parking. Can that be used for that?
I would lean towards yes.
Since
I
it's
would lean
considered a
towards it.
capital.
But I would have to double and triple check the HUD
Can you
guidelines.
do the research then? But anyway, so going back to the projects, I would like to see those folks that came here. That's me. So I would like to ask each and every council member. I think Councilmember Chua already gave her recommendations. Councilmember Chua, let me see. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we're on the same page because on my list are all the people that are here. If I miss anybody, please raise your hand so I can add you on my list.
We also have a list too.
Yeah,
We can.
sorry. So everybody's that are here are on my list. And I think that's the same list as
Yeah.
the mayor.
The 7.
So,
Mayor,
thank you.
Just, Mayor. if I
So
may,
we have
ju-
a comment from
yeah,
city manager.
Just a quick comment. Robert, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in past years, we've received this type of direction, general direction from the council on which groups they would like to receive funds. And then if we're a little bit over the amount that's available, staff can work your magic, as Councilmember Chua said, and we could do it by percentages or something, but we would come back to them at a future hearing with a recommendation for those.
Yeah,
projects,
exactly.
right?
So
awesome.
our projected second public hearing is either May or June. It just depends on when the funds are made known by HUD. So once we know what the funds are, then we can actually do the math on what the 90% is. We say 600,000 for easy math. It could be a little bit more, a little bit less. But yeah, what we would try to do is take your feedback and then in as equitable a manner possible, like Ned said, percentages or whatever, we would try to make that work within each of the caps. So that's what we will try to do if that's the direction you're giving us.
Okay, thank you. And so any more comments from the council members? Recommendations? And we have Councilmember Lamb.
Yes. For me, I'll just follow the group you highlighted. The first group, public service. I would give my priority to the elderly, the seniors, and the young, the youth, and also the like the mayor said, the working, low-income people. Those are my priority for public service. And for capital project, it's only 2 applications. I'll leave it up to you to decide how much you allocate for the rebuilding together and terrace garden. I like both of them. For economic development, I have no problem of moving 140,000 to the grant fund. I have no problem with city team either. Those 2. And for program administration, there are only 1 applicant. I'll leave it up to you to allocate the funds.
Thank you, Council Member.
Okay, recommendations from the other council members of your prioritization. We have, excuse me.
Thank you,
Councilmember
Mayor.
Lin.
I'm gonna yield the decision to staff, just like last year. Well, when applicants don't show up at the meetings like this doesn't mean that they're not serious in trying to get the funds or the grants. With whatever reason, I think we should just be fair to give each and every one a fair share. And with the calculation that we did last year, I think all the recipients were pretty much happy with that. So that's my decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Vice Mayor Barbadillo.
Right. I'll echo the preference of the mayor and Councilmember Chua. Not because of preference, but because I've seen and this group that came tonight has been partners for years. So that's my my thought and recommendation. One thing we have learned tonight is the very limited percentages on 3 groups of where we can distribute CBDG funds, and what we may do is use economic development and capital improvements towards the public service, right? Like CIP, like what the mayor said, we can do a parking for that house. And that's a CIP project. We can probably enhance a place structure somewhere that would eventually benefit, the public. So let's try to be creative and beat these caps in a way that it's still under the parameters of the requirements of HUD, but we can trickle it more on public service. I think that's the only route that we can tweak the percentages, right? Any capital improvement that would benefit the public, if it's some street or some sewage or some sidewalk that would eventually be considered as a CIP project or something that we can use those funds, I think that's one way to channel it towards more to the public.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. And we have Vice Mayor Chua.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think you heard the direction from all of us, and now you're asking for the what to do with the excess funds. I would suggest that because you're doing some research, to wait until you get an answer. So don't touch the 148 for the Rebuilding Together and also the Economic Development 148. Just leave it until we hear back from you or your staff. I think that would be good. And also for your recommendations to sunset, I think I'm hearing from the rest of the council, go ahead and sunset the loan rehab program.
Right.
Just a clarification. So as part of the sunsetting, are we approving the reallocation towards economic development activities, just not selecting those activities?
No, because
Okay,
we
so
have
just,
other
just sunsetting the
recommendations.
program.
Right, just set it aside, park it for now until we hear from you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Will that work?
research that, what we can use that money for.
If I may, the one issue there is I believe there's a timeliness issue in using those funds before May. And that was the reason we were bringing it forward now, is so that the funds could be allocated. I think as Robert indicated, they don't have to be allocated to a specific program within economic development, but, or.
Yeah, I mean, there is a timeliness issue, but again,
Yeah, 4 months. I mean, that's enough time to do the research. I mean,
I would-
you could do it next week.
Yes, I would,
I might have
I
to.
would hope to see the
No,
item.
listen, it's council's decision. So we made them aware of the timeliness issue.
Yes.
If they decide to proceed, that's council's decision.
I think for your recommendation, we will wait until we get feedback from you and hopefully the next council session, right? You're fast, so you can do it. So that's a goal. So those are my recommendation, I think.
I'll look to the city manager on that one.
You can always do it.
So anyway, from the 148, we still have a balance from the 675.
We need your microphone, please.
We have a, excuse me.
Right. We are not saying that we don't allocate them now to economic development or the stabilization, because even if we do, we still have a balance from 675 that we're going to park and come decide later on. So I believe what the thoughts are, preserve them now.
Yeah.
We are ready to reallocate them prior to May, but we just want to have and to hear more choices on how we reallocate them.
That's right.
Maybe at the end of the day, we'll give it to economic development and anyway, but we're just wanting to hear more choices on what we have discovered today. As I said, if you rechannel in CIP, maybe it redounds to the public. So just more choices so that we don't feel pressure to allocate them now because we have to spend it in May. What a problem, huh?
If I might, Robert, could you clarify? I don't know if it's, the timeliness is not about allocating the funds, but it's actually about expending the funds by May, right? And so I think that we're kind of in a box because we need to expend the funds, or I don't know that we will lose them, but there's a threat that we could lose them. So I just want to make sure that the council is clear as they're making that direction, because I feel like the sunsetting of the housing program is tied to the use of those funds before May, not just allocating them.
So the timeliness is really the concern, right? We don't want to put your funds at any unnecessary risk, right? As we've noted, we don't know truly what the impact of not meeting timeliness is, because HUD has a different way of doing it every year. But that's why our recommendation is such. We just don't want to put your funds at any unnecessary risk. So we are recommending that you allocate those funds to these two specific activities, because we know that these two specific activities can expend those funds before the timeliness test. But again,
We're not ready.
it's council's decision.
I don't think we're ready until we hear from you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilmember Chua. And I'm going to throw another wrench here. Okay, other cities, well, specifically San Jose, what they're doing, they're providing, and it has to do with economic development as well. They're providing fee waivers for some of their permits. And, that's in a way to incentivize businesses to open up. And, and again, if you open up a business, you get the sales tax. So that's also economic revenue generator as well. So again, it goes back to economic development. So that might be another option. I'm not, if you can research that as well, about waiving some permit fees. Thank you. Councilmember Chua, sorry, I have to keep reading.
Mayor, we did that with the ARPA funds. I mean, yes.
I know,
We did that for the home, for
Right,
the
but I wanna-
ADU.
but I wanna-
waive. That's a good idea, actually.
I want to do the.
So you have a lot of things to do, Robert.
We got to be creative, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Thank you
Okay,
so much.
Thank you so much. You already have the direction, what to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
We still need a motion and second.
We need a motion in a second.
Mayor. Okay. City Attorney, did you hear the discussion, and the motion should be, there you go.
It sounded to me, we had the discussion, and the discussion items do not require a motion. So it sounded like that the direction was, the motion was simply going to be to authorize the city manager or designate to sunset the home rehab program and to bring forward a plan for the reallocation of those funds.
Will that cover all the discussions tonight? Will that do it?
So the discussion as to the allocation of those funds was heard by staff, and then they will incorporate that into what they bring forward to you later. No motion is needed as to that. The only motion has to go to the other items about the reallocation sunsetting of the program. Because you're not, I didn't hear a desire necessarily to reallocate to any particular cause, then the motion would be to simply sunset the home rehab loan program and to direct the city manager to bring forward a proposal for reallocating those funds.
So moved.
Our options, yeah. Okay, is there a second? We have a second by Vice Mayor Barbadillo.
Thank
So
you,
motion by-
City Attorney.
Okay, so just to restate, it was motioned by Councilmember Chua and seconded by Vice Mayor Barbadillo. Okay, we take the vote now.
Vice Mayor Barbadillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Chua.
Aye.
Councilmember Lamb.
Aye.
Councilmember Leon.
Aye.
Mayor Montano.
And I'm an aye. Okay. Thank you for that. And now we will move on to announcements and future agenda items. Oh, yeah. Sorry, the consent item number 8. We're going to bring that back. And this is the one that was pulled by Councilmember Lamb. Welcome, Elaine.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor Montano, Vice Mayor Barbadillo, and council members. I'm Elaine Marshall, Deputy Public Works Director. I've got a quick presentation to go over the item that was pulled from the consent calendar. The item is to accept the report on the 2025 solid waste rate adjustment. I'm joined by Mivan Kusiman, who's our solid waste program manager tonight. I'm also joined virtually by Rose Radford with R3 Consulting Group, who is our rate review consultant. And we also have representatives from Milpitas Sanitation, both in the audience and I believe virtually as well, to answer any questions. So just as a brief overview, Milpitas Sanitation Incorporated holds the exclusive franchise agreement for collection of solid waste and collection and processing of recyclable materials and organic materials here in the city of Milpitas. This is a long-term agreement. The term started in September of 2017 and goes through August 31st of 2032. As a reminder for some of the council who were here at the time, Milpitas Sanitation was purchased by Waste Connections, a large international waste company, and council approved the assignment of the franchise to Waste Connections in June of 2022, along with the Fourth Amendment to the franchise agreement. Also, just wanted to point out that Milpitas Sanitation handles all billing and revenue collection along with as part of their service. Next slide, please. The franchise agreement is very detailed. It does allow for
annual rate adjustments. Most of the years, it is an index-based rate adjustment, which means the solid waste rates are adjusted up or down based on specified indices such as CPI, the employment cost index, and fuel index. 3 times in the franchise for rate year 4, rate year 8, which is the current rate year, and rate year 12. The adjustment is actually based on cost that Milpitas Sanitation is incurring to provide service. The franchise agreement has a very thorough methodology for conducting that cost-based review and how the rate adjustment is supposed to be calculated. Next slide, please. The franchise agreement also specifies that if the rate adjustment is equal to or less than 5%, that rate adjustment is administratively approved by the city contract manager, which is myself. But if the rate adjustment is greater than 5%, the rate adjustment will be presented to council for approval. This year, as I mentioned, is rate year 8. It's a cost-based adjustment. MSI submitted their rate adjustment application with a rate adjustment calculated at 12.24%. Their application included all supporting documentation about their cost of operations. The city worked closely with R3 Consulting Group to review the rate application, including MSI's operating costs, operational statistics, service levels, general ledger, to go through to ensure that the rate adjustment methodology per the franchise agreement was followed. R3 Consulting has been working with the city for multiple years now, reviewing the rate applications, both for index-based years as well as cost-based adjustments. During the course of the review, R3 did identify different revisions and corrections to the rate application submitted by MSI. That included identifying costs that were deemed unallowable for the franchise agreement. It included adjusting costs for index adjustments, as well as just ensuring that the costs matched backup documentation. As a result, the revised rate adjustment that was calculated by R3 was 9.19%. Next slide, please. Just a quick history of the rate adjustments since the beginning of the franchise. You can see in this table, most of the adjustments have been below the 5%. This is the first time in the franchise that it's been over the 5%, so one of the first times this issue has been brought forward to council. Next slide, please. So this shows what the impact of the projected rate increase will be for residential customers. As a reminder, Milpitas Sanitation provides service to not just residential customers, but commercial, multifamily, and also construction and debris box service. But for the most common customer, the residential customers, this chart shows the current quarterly solid waste rates, as well as kind of the monthly. Milpitas Sanitation does bill on a quarterly basis, and so that is typically what residents will see on their bills. With the rate adjustment, the monthly change to the bills is in the range of $3.52 to $5.17 per month, depending on the size of service that is subscribed to by the customer. And click once, please. What I wanted to point out here is that most customers fall into this 45-gallon solid waste, 19-gallon food scrap level, and that's will be the most common impact. And then the next common impact is the second to smallest rate, if you click one more time, with 17% of our customers, which will see this corresponding impact. Next slide, please. I do want to also point out that Milpitas Sanitation does offer under our franchise special rates for seniors. Any account holder that resides at the home and has the solid waste account in their name and is over 62 years old qualifies for the senior rates. The senior rates are actually 50% of regular rates for these two service levels. So the impact to seniors will be much more reasonable. For monthly change, it will be about $1.76 to $1.91 per month. Next slide, please. And then we have also conducted a comparison of Milpitas solid waste rates to other cities in our area and in the South Bay. You'll see from this chart that Milpitas continues to be amongst the lowest for solid waste rates. Under the current rates, we're second lowest, just below Fremont, with the proposed 9.19% increase. We actually become closer to Fremont. We are higher than Fremont for the second to largest size service, but the other three services remain below Fremont's cost, Fremont's rates. Next slide, please. One of the considerations I wanted to point out was during the, yes. Oh, sure. Oh.
Councilmember Lamb, we need you to turn your microphone on.
Just go back to the previous slide, please.
Yeah, just go back to previous slide.
Oh, previous slide, please. Just back up one. Thank you. Thank you. Next slide, please. So one of the key considerations, and we think council should be made aware of, is that during the assignment of the franchise, when Waste Connections purchased MSI, the city also negotiated some service enhancements as part of the condition of the assignment. These included establishing the neighborhood cleanup program, which currently we're offering 5 to 6 neighborhood cleanup events per year. Under the negotiated enhancements, we can go all the way up to 12 if participation warrants, but we're seeing right now the 5 to 6 cleanups as the sweet spot for participation. We adjusted and improved the bulky large item collection program by allowing up to 3 items at one appointment, and then also allowing residents the opportunity to set out in multiple garbage bags as opposed to using the 1.5 cubic yard, the 2.5 cubic yard bags that were provided by MSI. Residents are now also able to take advantage of a voucher program that allows for self-haul and disposal of a truckload of unwanted materials directly at Zanker landfill. Flattened cardboard can be collected outside the recycling cart if it's cut and flattened to a certain dimension. We are also offering a dedicated garbage cart option as the largest option for folks who don't like or don't prefer the split carts. We realigned the street sweeping mileage and increased that, and then also are working with MSI to offer additional compost giveaways to help the city comply with SB 1383 requirements. At the time, these enhancements were agreed to at no cost to the ratepayer until rate year 8 adjustment. And so these costs for service. The annual cost is being included in this cost-based adjustment, and is one of the reasons we think the increase is coming in at over the 5% cap. Next slide, please. Yes. Previous slide, please.
The first question is on the first item, six neighborhood cleanup events per year, and it's increased to 12. How do you organize the neighborhood cleanup events?
Sure, Councilmember Lamb. The neighborhood cleanup events are actually super popular. They started, I believe, in 2021, 2022-ish. And they are, our staff actually coordinates with MSI to schedule those. We have them at different locations throughout the city, whether it's Cardoza Park, our parking lot out here, or at 2 school parking lots. On those days, we do one a month from May through August, or actually through October. We take July off because it's just a very hot and folks are traveling, so it's a lower demand. And Milpitas Sanitation provides 10 30 cubic yard dumpsters that are brought out to those sites. Our staff advertise the events. Residents sign up for a 15-minute window where they can come to the location and drop off unwanted materials up to a truckload. So usually we see a lot of mattresses, we see a lot of dining room tables, couches, tires, electronic waste. And so we get about 150 to 180 participants per event, and tend to fill up all 10 containers. I think the October event tends to be the lowest participation, and so for that one we fill up about 7 or 8 containers.
I see. There are 12 events in a year, so it's
Right
not,
now we're doing 5. We're doing 5. We've kind of found that 5 is the sweet spot. We had done 6 in the past, including in July, and have seen that participation rates drop, and we actually have folks sign up and then not show up.
So it's not a fixed schedule, it's just...
No. No, we tend to develop the schedule in March and April and start advertising about a month before the
And
events.
is that including...
So, Councilmember Lamb, I just want to mention that we call them dumpster days, and they're really popular. A lot of people use them. Matter of fact,
I just find out.
I've used it myself, so they're really popular. So
Yeah.
just want to throw that out there.
It's good. Is that including paint and other chemicals?
We do not accept household hazardous waste at those events. There is a county-run household hazardous waste collection program where Milpitas residents can sign up for an appointment to bring paints, chemicals, etc. There's also a what's called a extended producer paid program. Stores such as Sherwin-Williams, etc., also accept unused paint. Because folks do pay a fee for that.
Okay, and then the last item, the additional compost giveaways bags. Are those for plants and trees?
It is. So part of the service that Milpitas Sanitation provides is yard waste collection for composting. And so this is kind of bringing that compost back to the community. So we do work with Milpitas Sanitation to give compost bags. They're, I don't know.
Is soil?
Soil, yes.
Okay,
Soil
okay.
amendment. There are 2 compost giveaways events every year.
Oh, I see.
And gosh, we get a lot of demand for that too.
It's twice a year.
Yes, yes. And then we're also looking at a way for making more compost available.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Oh, it's a first come, first serve. It's like 100 bags.
No. For the compost giveaways, it is, gosh, I think we have somewhere between 500 to 800 vehicles coming through, and they get 4 bags per person.
Okay.
This extra 100 bags is we're looking at a way to make it available outside of those 2 events of trying to find a location where residents can come pick up.
Okay.
What's the source? I'm going to piggyback on. What's the source of the compost? Where does it come from?
Oh, sure. The compost is sourced from Z-Best composting facility down in Gilroy. And it is actually compost that is made from yard trimmings collected from South Bay cities, including Milpitas.
Okay.
So it's our green waste going down there to be composted and
And
then
then one
coming
more,
back.
the voucher program, is that twice a year or once a year?
The voucher program,
You
2
can,
per
you
year.
can ask two per year. A lot of folks don't know that. And, you know, when I tell people, yeah, because we used to have free dump days with public services. But now I'm glad that Milpitas Sanitation offers the voucher program, but a lot of folks still don't know. I think we need to do a better job of letting folks know about this
Agreed.
voucher
I
program.
agree. I think through our briefings, we've been hearing that
So we have.
we want to publicize these secret services more.
Yeah.
So they're no longer secret services.
Yeah.
Secret Service, that's a good one. So I actually, I need to know, I just want to piggyback on what was said. The dumpster day is very popular. You should use it. I mean, I've used it several times. And also I have 2 white bags in my garage and it's raining. I don't know how I'm going to get it out. So how many times can I have is it 6? I can't remember.
Oh, for the bulky collection program, it is 4 times a year. And I think you need to have it 12 weeks apart for your schedule.
Right. I think it's 8
Maybe
weeks
8.
apart. Yeah.
Yes, thank
So
you.
my question is it I mean, I can put like a refrigerator, a mattress, and a frame because we increase it
To
to
3 items, yes.
3 items.
Yes.
It was 1 before. So does it
That's
counts
1 pickup.
1 pickup? So I can only have 4 a year, including the white bags, the 2 white
Yes.
bags?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Just want to make sure. I know. It's a good deal. We did good on that one. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you both.
Sure. Just for my final slide, the recommendation before you tonight is to accept the report on the Milpitas Sanitation Cost-Based Rate Review for Rate Year 8 and find that the methodology used conforms with the solid waste franchise agreement.
So I just want to make a comment that comparing with the comparison of the other cities, it's not too much off. So any comments from the council members? We have a Councilmember Lamb.
One of the slides shows the original proposal is 12.24, and then we recalculate to 1.19.
Yes.
I assume either side has the contract, and then the contract spell out in details how we go about calculating the increase. Why would there be a 3% difference?
Sure, Councilmember Lamb. That's a great question. I will say that the process for this cost-based rate adjustment is not uncommon. There are other cities that use similar methodologies for a rate adjustment with their franchise contractor. I believe, and R3 can speak to this, but it is pretty detailed as we've gone through kind of what the exhibit says and how it outlines the rate review. I will say that because it is somewhat common, those indexes and what's allowable costs and not allowable costs probably is where it changes between one agreement to another agreement and therefore requires review. So for example, if Waste Connections had a similar contract with a different agency, their allowable costs under that contract may be different from ours. And so that's why it is important to have a third party review of all of the cost information and the backup documentation to go over that and ensure that everyone's on the same page with what's in the contract.
If I understand correctly, what you're saying is one party may misunderstand the contract.
That could be the case. That could be the case. And the intent of the review is to ensure that we are all aligning to what is specified in the contract. And it does happen. And I'll say that you know, and Rose, if you want to jump in with your experiences from other cities, that it is common to review the numbers that are provided by the franchisee to the city.
Go ahead.
Sure. Thanks for having me tonight. My name is Rose Radford with R3 Consulting, and I was the primary analyst reviewing the rate application. So Elaine is absolutely correct that this process is somewhat common with garbage franchise contracts. You have it every 4 years, and we did this similar review with MSI prior to their acquisition by Waste Connections 4 years ago. The exhibit is very, very detailed, but so are the underlying financials that sort of connect to the exhibit and therefore the rate application. And so the reason that you hired us was so that we could follow each one of those threads through to MSI's financials and understand how that works in their financial systems and verify the numbers. And so it is, again, not uncommon for a consultant to find a few differences between what our interpretation of the exhibit is and what the solid waste contractor put in their original application. And so we were happy to find a discrepancy of about 3% to the benefit of the Milpitas ratepayers.
Is there a representative from?
I was going to say, we
Yeah.
do have representatives from MSI if anybody wants, if you guys want to address this question.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Brian Bigham, and I'm an accountant controller for Waste Connections. And so one of the reasons that the difference is when this contract was put together, it wasn't Waste Connections, it was a prior owner. And they had, within this increase for the rate year, there's certain items that are specified as to number of drivers, a number of employees. And so when we put our numbers together, we put in all of our drivers that work for Milpitas. So some of that was pulled out, I believe, because the initial contract only specified a certain number of drivers. So, you know, as Elaine showed, we've also increased some of the services that we provided when we took over the contract. So that, you know, allowed us, well, not allowed, but kind of made us add drivers to our system to take on some of these additional services. So we put them all in. Well, R3 went through and said, the contract says you only allowed so many drivers. So they pulled some of that out. Does that make sense?
Does that mean you guys didn't review the contract?
Oh, no, we reviewed it.
Then why would it be?
Well, it's a cost-based contract, and so those are our true costs. We submitted our true costs. It's just that the contract initially said, the owner prior said, we anticipate this is how many drivers we will use. We're using more than that now. But R3 has to go by what was initially put in the contract. Yeah, so we put in our total drivers. And I think that's one of the larger items of discrepancies.
What else?
What else was,
Yeah, is that the drive, because of the 3%, because of the additional drivers?
well, there's a few of them. There's a few different line items I think is in the report. I think that was the largest one. I don't recall off the top of my head what some of the other ones were. But.
We received a report from our staff which highlight there are 11 items has discrepancies. So one item is labor related costs. I assume it's the drivers.
Right, primarily.
Yeah, and then there are other 10 items. And yeah, there are also 10 other items has discrepancy as well.
Correct, yes. So, you know, I mean, do you want to go one by one, or do you have a question about a particular one?
I'm not sure why would a large company would oversight so many items, and then we are able to find 11 discrepancies.
If I could provide maybe my version of the answer quickly here. So Rose Radford again. Let me highlight a few examples. So in MSI's initial application, they had estimated the tipping fee for garbage. The city actually holds that agreement with the landfill and sets the garbage tipping fee rate. At the time of the MSI application, they didn't have the information about what the approved garbage rate would be. And so that's part of what we would do while we're doing the review of the MSI application, is just fix that number. It's not that MSI did the wrong thing in estimating it. It's just that now we have better information about what that is. And many of these adjustments that we're walking through in our report are similar to that. Another example would be the corporate overhead allocation, which is higher for the new company. We capped that at what the prior owners had in their proposal to the city long ago. And that was because of an interpretation that we had about what the city's agreement was in assigning the contract. So there are these pieces that I think are important for the company and for the city and for your consultant to come to an agreement on, that kind of fall into that gray area space of it. And luckily, I mean, we're happy to say that we are coming before you today with an agreement with the company on these items after having had many conversations about each one, prior to this meeting.
Okay, thank you for clarification. I have another question for Elaine. On this summary of adjustment, there are highlighted 11 items. Are there more than 11 items, and other items are no differences? That's why it's not listed, or are those the total items that are found differences?
I believe these are the total items that have a difference.
And so that means there are other items which are the same as you guys calculated.
Yes, there were items where their numbers were agreed upon. We're like, okay, yeah, that matches what what R3 says. Yes.
Okay. And okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay.
Yeah, I just have final comment. I hope MSI going through this experience and next time around would get close to the contract calculation as close as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lamb. So would you like, what are your wishes, since you're the one that pulled it? Do you want to make a
No,
motion?
I don't think we have much choice on this.
So do you want to make a motion to accept?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept this computations.
Is there a second? So he makes a motion to the other recommendations. Do you want to read that? So-
Just read it? Oh, okay. Accept the report on the Milpitas sanitation cost base rate review for rate year 8 and find that the methodology used conform with the solid waste franchise agreement.
Is there a second? Okay, it was moved by Councilmember Lamb and seconded by Councilmember Lian. And we now call for the vote.
Vice Mayor Barbadillo,
Aye.
Councilmember Chua. Aye. Councilmember Lamb,
Aye.
Councilmember Lian,
Aye.
Mayor Montano.
And I'm an aye, thank you. Okay, moving on to now announcements. Did you have, city manager has a,
No, Mayor, I do not have any announcements tonight. Thank you.
okay. Okay, no announcement from the city manager. And council members, do you have any announcements or any comments? Okay, I don't see anybody, so with that, I am going to adjourn this meeting. Good night, everyone. Okay, meeting is not adjourned. Public comment open. All right, thank you much. All right.
Thank you.
Public